Here's the problem. If I came to you, Kate, having been married 7 times and been in 7 different relationships and having cheated on each of those 7 past wives, and I said, Kate, will you marry me? How much would you be willing to give up of your current life to join that marriage with me? The answer is less, because I had shown myself to be
I mean, Justin, you took me on a journey. I also believe I will be calling my husband in this commercial break. But you brought it. You did. We did land the plane. I think we did at the end. You're fascinating.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. No. That was not a criticism. I just didn't know I was going to be proposed to this morning, and I really enjoyed it.
Welcome back to Clips News. Today, we are diving into a major economic and political turning point as President Donald Trump pauses his threatened 50% across-the-board tariffs on Canada with just hours to spare. While the White House is touting a brand new trade deal, officials in Ottawa are striking a far more cautious tone, insisting that key negotiations are still underway. Beyond the press room announcements, the real story is playing out in consumer behavior. From Canadian provinces pulling American bourbon off liquor store shelves to a staggering 70% drop in U.S. spirits exports. Today, we break down President Trump's White House statement, analyze key insight from former Quebec Premier Jean Charest on regional economic friction, and look at economist Justin Wolfer's viral metaphor explaining why trust between these two historic allies is rapidly breaking down. Let's get straight into the analysis.
Very much.
Just before new tariffs on Canadian goods were scheduled to take effect at 12:01 a.m. overnight, President Trump hit pause, saying on social media that the threatened tariff hit was pushed off for at least 3 days, as he claimed the United States and Canada had reached a deal. The response from the Canadian Prime Minister, slightly less confident that a deal was at hand, saying in part, quote, "There is important work still to be done." The tariffs on Canada would have been a 50% tariff on some $20 billion worth of goods, covering everything from dairy products and alcohol to furniture and more, about 5% of Canadian exports to the United States. This morning, U.S. alcohol producers, for one, are really hoping the progress of these talks is real. A Canadian boycott has hit the industry very hard. A leading industry group noted overnight these bans have caused exports of American spirits to drop by more than 70%. Joining me right now is Justin Wolfers, an economics professor at the University of Michigan. It's good to see you again, Justin. Thanks for being here. If this set of tariffs would go into effect, what do you think the impact would be? How would you rate the success of Trump's, I guess we'll continue to call it a trade war or trade tension with Canada to this point?
Oh, mate, calling it a trade tension. I've got a friend who's getting divorced right now, and she calls that tensions. Look, actually, I want to congratulate the president because we do have a deal. We have a deal with Canada. It was called NAFTA. The president ripped that up and he renegotiated it and called it the USMCA. The United States literally has a free trade deal with Canada. Both sides have signed it. It's existing law in both countries. What's happened instead is that the president has decided that what he wants to do is up the ante and engage in a whole bunch of melodramatics, which doesn't look like it's going to achieve very much. He's threatened our free trade partner, one of our closest trading partners and allies, with 50% across the board tariffs. They've come back and they've said, no, we have a free trade agreement. We would like a free trade agreement. And there's all these negotiations that are going on, which are basically how much closer to our existing agreement are we going to get back to?
Does this give him leverage over the renegotiations over NAFTA, USMCA, whatever we're going to call it now?
I mean, we can give it a different name every week. It's terrific. Not really. Here's the problem. If I came to you, Kate, having been married 7 times and been in 7 different relationships and having cheated on each of those 7 past wives, and I said, Kate, will you marry me? How much would you be willing to give up of your current life to join that marriage with me? The answer is less, because I had shown myself to be an unreliable partner. So you might say, I'm willing to do the stuff with you, Justin, as long as it works for me. But if it doesn't work right away, you know what? I don't really trust your word anymore. So he's narrowed the scope of things that we could possibly strike an agreement or strike a deal with. That's the first point. There's actually a second point. The president declared early on that he wanted Canada to be the 51st state, whether they wanted it or not. To continue the analogy, he's not really that keen on consent. It turns out that's a terrible way to begin a relationship. And the problem in Canada right now is not what the Canadian government's doing, it's what Canadians are doing. Canadians are going to the store and they're picking up products and they're saying, was this made in the United States or not? And if it's made in the United States, they put it back down. So Mark Carney and the Canadian government can sign any number of trade agreements, but you can't change what's in the heart of Canadians right now. They have an expression up there, elbows up, which is they're sick of being bullied. They don't want to be part of this game anymore. And no matter what trade deals get signed, Canadians don't want to spend time in the United States, for instance.
I mean, Justin, you took me on a journey. I also believe I will be calling my husband in this commercial break. But you brought it. You did. We did land the plane. I think we did at the end. You're fascinating.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. No. That was not a criticism. I just didn't know I was going to be proposed to this morning, and I really enjoyed it. With a little dash of a trade war at the same time. It is great to see you. Thank you so much. Let us see what happens in the next 3 days. I really appreciate it, Justin.
In this featured segment, anchor Kate Baldwin speaks with University of Michigan economist Justin Wolfers, who delivers one of the most memorable and entertaining breakdowns of the U.S.-Canada trade dispute you will ever see on cable news. Rather than sticking to dry financial metrics, Wolfers compares the situation to a friend going through a rough divorce and goes even further by hypothetically asking Baldwin to marry him after he's already been divorced 7 times and cheated on every ex-wife. The humor catches Baldwin completely off guard, but the economic point underneath is sharp and undeniable. Wolfers argues that by repeatedly tearing up existing agreements like NAFTA and USMCA, only to demand new terms, the U.S. administration is destroying international credibility. When trust is shattered, trading partners become unwilling to make long-term concessions because they simply don't believe the deal will hold. He also highlights the growing elbows up sentiment among Canadian consumers who are taking matters into their own hands by actively boycotting American-made goods at the grocery store. It is a brilliant combination of sharp economic reality and unfiltered television banter.
A lot of stories coming out that Canadians are so angry at the United States right now that they're basically refusing to buy U.S. imported products into Canada, like Kentucky bourbon, for example, and they're refusing to even come to the United States to go to Florida, for example, because they're irritated with the U.S. How significant is that?
There's no one in the federal government saying to Canadians not to go to the United States or to not buy American booze, though the provinces took it off the shelves. Canadians are reacting to a situation where they're challenged by the American administration. But the perspective on this, Wolf, that Canadians say to themselves, well, we need to buy more Canadian. It's not that we're hostile to the United States. We want to buy more Canadian products, which is exactly what you want your American citizens to do with American products. So that's the dynamic it's created. But let's get beyond this trade conflict that we have. And if we do, we're going to return to a relationship where Canada and the United States have one of the best relationships in the world. And we support each other's economy. We're more efficient. We're more productive together. And that's what we want. We want to have a relationship that is going to be good for the American side and good for the Canadian side.
And let's hope that happens. The former Quebec Premier Jean Charest, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it very, very much.
Just before new tariffs.
Moving to our next key segment, CNN host Wolf Blitzer speaks with former Quebec Premier Jean Charest regarding the growing grassroots backlash across Canada. As news of 50% tariffs hit the headlines, reports surfaced of Canadian shoppers actively boycotting American imports, from skipping Florida vacations to leaving U.S. goods on retail shelves. Charest offers a nuanced perspective, noting that while the Canadian federal government isn't officially telling citizens to boycott U.S. products, the intense diplomatic pressure has created a natural buy local dynamic that mimics a boycott. This segment highlights how political tariffs create massive unintended consequences for everyday American businesses. As provincial liquor stores in Canada removed U.S. alcohol from store shelves in response to trade threats, American spirit exports dropped by more than 70% almost overnight. Charest emphasizes that while both nations share one of the most integrated and successful economic partnerships in history, aggressive tariff rhetoric forces allies to reevaluate their reliance on U.S. supply chains. It serves as a stark reminder that trade wars aren't just fought in boardroom negotiations, they spill directly into everyday consumer habits.
Yeah, we had a very good conversation with the Prime Minister last night, and we've come to a deal with Canada. As you know, the 50% tariffs across the board were going on against Canada today, and they called yesterday and they gave us the points that we had to have. Very fair deal for both. The tariffs will be non-existent for our farmers. Our farmers were paying tremendous tariffs into Canada, and those tariffs are going to be totally eviscerated, down to zero.
Is the U.S. going to lower tariffs on Canadian autos or
we're doing certain things. Got to give something, and we're doing certain things. They were paying a high number. We're reducing it a little bit. It's good for everybody. But our farmers are going to be thrilled. Our manufacturers are going to be thrilled. And basically, we have no tariffs going into Canada anymore. Canada was charging us tremendous tariffs. We no longer have any tariffs.
All right, for more on The View from Canada.
In this critical segment, we view direct footage of President Donald Trump speaking at the White House, claiming that a brand new deal with Canada has been struck to eliminate tariffs on American farmers. Trump asserts that Canadian agricultural tariffs will be totally eviscerated down to zero, while offering a far more ambiguous response when pressed on whether the U.S. will lower tariffs on Canadian automobiles, simply stating, "We're doing certain things." This moment highlights the core tension of the entire news cycle. While the president frames the 3-day extension as a total victory for U.S. manufacturing and agriculture, foreign policy analysts note that no concrete details or formal documentation were provided alongside the announcement. The segment captures the signature high-stakes negotiation style of the administration, using maximum leverage and tight deadlines to force last-minute concessions. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Clips News for more daily political and economic commentary.